Hi, everybody. This is Eden Maybon of lightcycleastrology.com. I hope you've been doing well. Well, we've got a solar eclipse coming up in the sign of Scorpio on October the 25th. So today I'm going into 4 of my themes for the significations of a Scorpio solar eclipse. Now, whenever you want to see what meaning an eclipse could behold, you always have to look at the dispositor or the ruler of the sign that the eclipse is taking place in. In this case, the eclipse is happening in Scorpio, and in ancient astrology, the dispositor is Mars. So we're going to see what kind of condition is Mars in currently. Does Mars have reception to its guests? Traveling through its temple of Scorpio. These are things that are really important when we want to see what kind of eclipse energy could this bring about. And then we'll go ahead and get into some of the themes that I think could surround the topics of this particular eclipse. Okay, well, let's go ahead and pull up the real-time clock here. And you can see that, let me get my share screen going. Okay, so you can see here is the eclipse right here in the very first degrees of Scorpio. And it's pretty near this south node marker. It's only about 11 degrees away. And that's how we know, by the way, just by looking at a chart, that's how you can tell that a new moon or a full moon is going to be an eclipse if it's within 15, 17 degrees of one of these lunar nodes. But anyway, that's just an aside. So here we have the eclipse in Scorpio happening on October the 25th. For me out here in Hawaii, it's going to be real early in the morning, 47 minutes after midnight. If you're on the East Coast, that's really going to be more like 6 or 5 a.m., something like that. And you just have to adjust your time, depending on where you are in the world. But essentially, we're talking probably in the morning for the 25th of most of us. Now, again, what we're going to do here to get a sense of the meaning for this particular eclipse that is happening in Scorpio, we're going to look to Mars because Mars is the ancient ruler of his temple down here in Scorpio. So we call this the dispositor of the eclipse itself. So the dispositor, what kind of condition do we see Mars in? Well, one of the big things that Mars is about to do on October the 30th, which is actually my birthday, is Mars is going to station and turn retrograde. That, I think, is a big part or a big piece of the puzzle of symbolism here. Now, in the other thing that is really, really significant for this eclipse, the meaning of this eclipse is that according to the ancient doctrine of visibility, the sign of Scorpio can see the entire sign of Taurus by opposition. Scorpio can see Cancer, the whole sign by trine, can see the whole sign of Leo by square, the whole sign of Virgo by sextile. On the other side here, Scorpio can see Capricorn by sextile, can see Aquarius by square, can see Pisces by trine. These are going to be our 7 aspects. So according to the ancient doctrine of visibility or optics, you have reception from a domicile or from a dispositor if they are going to be in one of these places. And then based on that location, that will give you a further indication of what kind of relationship that dispositor has to his temple. But essentially, you want Mars to have some visibility. Why is that? Because Mars, in ancient astrology, they had this concept of the guest-host relationship. So Mars is home or is responsible for the sign of Scorpio and the sign of Aries. So if you have something happening in your home, if you have guests come over, you want to be able to have some kind of communication with them. Either you want to be there with them so that you can be a good host, you can provide for them, take care of them. You also might want to make sure that they're not getting out of hand. This is sort of like it's almost like a teen party when the parents go away, something like that. The parents or the dispositor or the lord or the host, whichever way you want to look at the quote unquote ruling planet of a sign, it's always better when that host or parent planet or domicile ruler when it has some kind of aspect, either an opposition, a trine, square, or sextile back to one of its temples. So one of the significations of this eclipse, I think for sure, is that Mars is said to be in aversion when he is in Gemini. Also, just to give you kind of the complete picture here, if Mars is in Libra, he would also be in the blind spot, in an aversion. No reception from Libra, no reception to the sign of Sagittarius, and no reception to the sign of Aries or Gemini. So these are going to be Scorpio's blind spots. It's the non-reception. The phone signal doesn't work. So if Mars is not in Scorpio, taking care of this in eclipse, you really want Mars to be in another place that he can like have cell phone service, as like an analogy to this. But essentially, Mars in Gemini does not have reception. Mars can be turning a blind eye, or could seem to be indifferent, doesn't really care. And what this means is that we're not going to have support. So let's get into some of the themes here now that we get a general sense of what Mars is doing and what condition Mars is in. And again, remember, Mars is going to be slowing down day by day from now until October the 30th for the next 5 days, until he stops completely and then reverses course. So this eclipse is really the thing that busts open the gate for the Mars retrograde. This is I'm sure there's like a French phrase for this that I don't know, but this is like it's not the grand finale. It's the grand entrance. It's the gunshot at the Olympics or the race or what have you. So that's what I think is going on. But there's some sense in which we may try to do something that doesn't have full support. So I'll give you kind of an analogy that I've been rolling around with this. So let's say that the sun represents presidents, because solar themes often speak to leadership, ambition, power, authority, rulers, kings, judges. These are solar themes, right? So one thing that the sun can represent is presidents or leaders. So now imagine that we have the sun representing a leader. The leader moves into Scorpio. What does that mean? Well, Scorpio is the temple of Mars. So this is like a president going to visit like the Pentagon, right? So imagine this scenario. I'm just making this up, but let's say that the president says, I really want to start a war. So he goes to the Pentagon, and the general's not there. And so he's kind of looking around and nobody's there, right? So, well, actually Venus is there in this particular case. But anyway, the president goes to the Pentagon, and there isn't anybody there. He wants to talk to the general, and he's like, you know what? I need to lead this country into a war of some kind, right? I feel like this is the direction that we should go. This is the ambition, right? The solar theme expressing itself in a Scorpio-like way is through that Martian defensive way. So leadership through defense or through, protection, some Scorpionic way of leadership is happening. So he can't get, not only is the general of war, Mars, not there at home at the Pentagon, but he is also unreachable on any of the telecoms or whatever. He can't get a hold of him. So now what does the president do? Well, the president can push buttons. He can launch the weapons. He can do all kinds of things, excuse me, without the general. But the way that this is described, aversion in the ancient world is described mostly as kind of troublesome. So imagine the president's, he's in the Pentagon and he doesn't have the direction. He doesn't have the coordination. He doesn't have the support. And, Mars in Gemini is kind of like the martial intelligence. It's like you know what I mean? It's like the covert intelligence that Mars would have in a really intellectual sign like Gemini. So it might be that the general who has all of the intelligence for the war and would generally probably be pretty, gung-ho to start a war, isn't there to get the president on the phone and say either something like, hey, no, 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 don't do this strategy, do that strategy. Or, you know what, maybe we shouldn't go to war. Maybe we should hold back and, for the purposes of uh, doing something defensive that is more effective or what have you. So you get the general idea that the president might be trying to do something defensive in Scorpio. There might be a sense of leadership in Scorpio that is heading towards some kind of defense or even offense or protection, something like that. But it doesn't have the support of the general. So whatever forms Mars takes out in the world, maybe this is your older brother, maybe this is your dad, maybe this is your friend at the gym, or maybe this is just your strong partner, or it could be anything. Maybe it's your boss. But whatever Mars is going to represent, it's as if there just isn't communication. They're not on the same page. There's not some kind of direct support. So if you need to do something to protect something, to alleviate something, to keep an eye on something and sort of be the watchdog against something that could be dangerous, keeping the enemies at bay, even starting an offensive campaign that you feel like is just something you need to do right now to protect yourself. If there's anything happening within Scorpio in terms of that ambition or direction or leadership or purpose signaled by the sun being there, there may not be the support of the military intelligence or the general, going with this analogy. So I want to go ahead and pull up the 4 themes now that I've got for this. So let me just get my notes here. Okay, so theme number 1 is tripping your way down the stairs into the underworld of regeneration, repair, and decomposition. Okay, so Scorpio, it's the time of year where the leaves fall off the trees. We're in fall. We're in the dark of the dark. We're really, darkness is increasing day by day as we head into the summer solstice moment, where it's going to be the darkest day of the year. So there's this growth of darkness. So Scorpio time represents this theme of moving inside or internalizing something. It's when the leaves fall and they decompose and they atomize. And this creates the individual pieces that are now, they're not structured. They're not in an organization. They're kind of decomposed, and all the microorganisms break them down. And this will generate the ability for life to reorganize all of the individual pieces that can form new life in the springtime. So that is sort of what Scorpio season represents. So the sun going into the sign of Scorpio, again, is going to represent something that may be an impulse, a vision, a desire, if you will, or a directional impetus, or like a path that all of a sudden it flashes in your mind and you're like, I need to detoxify myself. I need to purge something. I need to protect something. There's going to be a sense in which you sort of go into regeneration mode. You go into maybe repair mode, or even decomposition mode. Maybe you're just breaking down the clutter around your home. Maybe there's a way in which you feel like you need to purge and get rid of or decompose something. That's the natural tendency that is going to signify an eclipse in the sign of Scorpio. But on your way down into this internalized mode, you don't have that support from Mars. So instead of gracefully descending into the underworld like a dark warrior ready to do battle with the forces of decay, you're sort of tripping and falling down into the underworld. You just don't have that support from Mars. So it might not be easy to go down into that realm like it would maybe at other times of the year when we just have planets going into Scorpio. This might be the Scorpio season that kicks off that is just a little bit rough and clumsy. So that's theme 1. Theme 2 I have is split between a mission you've been on previously and the emergence of a new imperative. So this is a little bit like theme 1, but This is more having to do with Mars back in the sign of Gemini, because, Mars and Gemini represent some kind of mission. Mars is the planet of missions, of actions, of quests, of valor and going out there and slaying the dragon. Mars and Gemini has been there for a while, and Gemini is this very mental sign that is a double body, double seasonal sign. So we can do a lot of things. We can have a lot of irons in the fire, a lot of projects going. We can have multiple passions, multiple loves at the same time. So Mars, in my sense, it's like he's been on a mission quest in Gemini territory for a while now. And because he hasn't moved into reception with Scorpio, like say in Cancer just yet, it's as if you're split between remaining on a past mission. And because you're still on this past mission, right now there might be the emergence of something new represented by the solar eclipse that is happening. So it's like there's some sense that something is blossoming, some vision is coming to you. There's a stirring of your soul. There's some kind of noble pursuit it's there. It's just now opening and blossoming, but it's like you can't quite pair the two together. You can't quite get the two energies on the same page, so you sort of remain on the past mission, even though it seems like there's something growing that might need that support, might need that willpower from Mars to really, get it going and put some passion into it. So that is theme 2. So just to give you an example, let's say that Mars was in Cancer and had that trine support back to Scorpio. That might be, let's say you're feeling the need to, get into an exercise routine and purge some of the unhealthy parts of your body, or do some yoga or something like that. And you look around your house and your house isn't set up to really be in that mode. You don't have maybe like the right space for doing an exercise routine or whatever it is. So Mars in Cancer might go through and say, hey, let's break apart the house and get that space going, and that passion could be there. And then that would be on the same page with whatever the Scorpio desire that is emerging. They could pair up, but you don't have that right now. So that is one thing. So this theme speaks to, feeling something emerging, but not really having the full weight of your will, because it's as if you're still questing for something that you've been doing back in Gemini for a while. So that is theme 2. Theme number 3 is simply a false starter. Now, because Mars sometimes can represent your willpower, your passion, your ability to get things going and, put that fire and light that fire underneath yourself, because you don't have the full support of Mars, there might be some door that's represented by the solar eclipse that feels like it's opening, but you might try to get it going, but you just don't have the fire in your belly to do it full on. So theme 3 is quite simple. It's like a false starter. You try to start, but you just can't quite, it doesn't maybe last so long, or maybe it just doesn't go anywhere. Theme number 4, the emergence of a vision that isn't realized for many months. So these are very similar to the last 3, but this is, the sun can represent a vision that is stirred up from the soul, the daimon that kind of gives you some new inspiration, some pursuit, some golden ideal image that you're like, yes, I want to do this all of a sudden. But because Mars is about ready to station and be pulled back into fate and be brought back for several months until it all the way until January, when it stations to turn direct, and then it has to go all the way into past its shadow through Gemini into Cancer. There's a sense in which it feels like, even if something some vision or inspiration begins now, you might see the golden door of the sun open, right? But it might be that door opens and then you're just sort of pulled away. It's still there. I'm not necessarily saying it would close, but it's just you're not able to fully walk through it for many, many months. So that is really pretty much what I'm thinking about for some themes for this energy, this solar eclipse that is happening in Scorpio on the 25th. Okay, so that's all I have for you today. I hope you got something valuable out of this. Please like, share, and subscribe if you did, and leave a comment in the comment section. Let me know how this eclipse goes for you. Thanks so much, everybody, for watching, and I'll be back real soon with another video. Bye for now.